It really does not matter if you are a shield wearing, sword wielding duck in full plate mail armor, or if you're a relatively recently reanimated semi human with horns growing out of your head doing the bidding of an evil, potentially, demon. I think this is the show for you. We're back. It's Friday night. I'm really pleased that we're here, and thank you for joining us. Please hit like and subscribe and join me and Martin from our Discord as we delve even into Kickstart Your Weekend right here on the Dark Orb. Hey, it's been a while since we did that.
Yes, indeed. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday indeed. Oh, wow. What a week to come back to. There's some really cool stuff for us to talk about. I'm very excited. Firstly, I suppose the duck in the room is that we've already had two shows, I guess, recently dedicated to Drakar och or Dragonbane. The interview we had with Thomas Herenstam just a couple of days ago. Thank you, everyone who's watched that. Please let us know what you think. And if you're subscribed to our podcast, you actually would have heard an extra episode that we did there, just talking about our thoughts and anticipation and whether or not we felt that there was space for another fantasy game on our shelves, another fantasy tabletop role-playing game. And we've had quite a lot of discussions on our Discord about that as well. Before we actually delve into the campaign of Dragonbane, and I think we'll talk about that one first, Martin, you and I were in the green room earlier on talking about this and whether or not we felt that we had space on our shelves for it, because I mean it's just another fantasy role-playing game, and what does it bring? What does it have that the other games that we're already not playing that we've bought? Well, you know, we've been there before, right?
Yeah, many times. I think.
Hi, Bruce. Great to see you. Thanks
Hey,
for joining.
Bruce. I don't think I'm going to get sick of buying fantasy role playing games. I think that's what this has made me realize. And although on the Discord server there's quite a lot of banter about the ducks in Drakar och between the Brits and between the Swedes. Yeah, Drakar och there's quite a bit of banter about that. I think that I quite like the write-up in the quick start of the ducks, and that's actually part of what won me over to backing.
I must confess, I haven't finished reading the quick start. It is freely available. It's on the Kickstarter campaign. I do have it open. We can go through a little bit of it later. But the description of the pre-generated character for the duck is amazing, and I'll definitely have to read that out to you. But I agree. The reality is that there are many games that are similar, if not identical, that are available to us. I mean, even things like The One Ring, that's arguably in the seminal fantasy setting right there. But I actually didn't back that in the end, or rather I backed it and then cancelled my pledge because I already have so many fantasy games, and that's one realm that I'm just never going to be able to do justice. I didn't get on too well with the books. They're incredible, they're amazing, but they're very dated, and excuse me, they remind me a little bit of trying to get through Anne Rice books. You know, there's so much setting, not so much story maybe compared to the setting and I mean, it's a very romantic way of writing, but I could never get through it. So for me, Drakar och Dragonbane is way more accessible.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said. I'm quite on the same page with you when it comes to Lord of the Rings. And I think there's something to be said for a game that provides enough information but doesn't have overwhelming lore. like with Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, many other settings as well. Forgotten Realms, things like that. I prefer something that gives the broad strokes and lets you kind of fill in your own details. Not every little village has a lot of lore written about it.
Yeah. Or if the lore is delivered to you piecemeal as part of the book that you're already doing, that can be accessible as well.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks like that. It's got the Misty Veil that they've got.
Yes, it is. So for anyone who's listening to this later on our podcast, we are laughing at live comments coming in on Twitch and on YouTube, and one of our patrons has just said, spoiler, no ducks in Lord of the Rings or Ring of Power. Oh well, there's probably no point in watching them then, to be honest with you, or reading the book.
Yeah, I mean, I might watch them at some point, maybe. I've got plenty that I'm going to watch before.
Yes, same here. Yeah, there's so much. And let's face it, Drakar och has got a rich history. There's a vast tapestry of books to pull from. But I think for those of us who are starting with it in English, we can build on that slowly. There's no prerequisite of you have to have all this lore, like you would even for things like standard 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. If you're going to run that game for people who have been playing it for 5 years, there is an unwritten expectation that you're going to know all about the history of tieflings, or who any of the Strahd or any of the kind of the big characters are. And if you don't know it, even if your party is really, really cool, you're still going to feel like the silly person at the table, particularly if you're running the game. And I think that's where having a fresh IP come in, where we're all, at least those of us who are speaking English, are all a relatively level playing field. That really helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we have a look at the actual campaign?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So basically, Dragonbane has been going for a few days now. It started at the beginning of the week, and already has 7,500 backers, which is incredible. It's at $484,000, or 5.25 million Swedish crowns, which is wonderful, because I must admit I was very concerned. I think everyone was, that maybe, just maybe, there would be not enough English language interest, because this game has like 35 years of Swedish history, a little bit more actually, 40 years pretty much. The first edition was 1982, I think Thomas said, and is a translation and a melding of the Chaosium basic role-playing and like a really small supplement called Magic World. 1982. So yeah, it's almost as old as we are, which is crazy. So there is so much lore, but we don't need to know it, and we'll want to know it, which is wonderful. I'm so pleased at how well this is doing. They are putting this as a box set, so they're following the same example they did for Twilight 2000 and for Blade Runner, in fact. And of course all their starter sets, so that's probably helping to keep the costs down, because they've got these manufacturing processes in. They've pretty much standardized, they know what they're doing. I imagine that the book is going to be bound in the same way as those previous books in those games. Where it gets a little interesting and possibly a little bit cheeky in terms of the stretch goals is that if you were to look at the actual Kickstarter itself, there is an image of the boxed set, and the boxed set actually includes stretch goals that haven't yet been completed. So it's pretty clear that they've already spec'd this set out, and that's kind of what they're expecting to put in the box. Now, of course, they may pull some of that out if they don't hit those goals, but that begs the question. I wonder if they would have just put those things in there regardless. I don't know.
Yeah,
they could probably afford to. I mean, having those stretch goals is great, and it looks like we've got some. I presume they are. I haven't actually caught up on this to see what the stretch goals levels are currently, but I presume that that's standees. Yep, standees. There we go. So there are some amazing stretch goals, and maybe we can go through some of those in a bit. but they're not the be-all and end-all. I really like the language that they've used. So I read some of this out in the beginning of the interview that we had with Thomas, but the intro to the Kickstart basically has some great stuff in it. It says, it was in the oldest times, before the world was covered in forest and iron was tamed by dwarven masters, before the advent of humanity and the mastery of the bread and ale-making arts. The world was then ruled by dragons and demons. Yes, draconic serpents and demonic creatures were the princes and princesses of the oldest times. They were the primordial forces through which the world and its primeval matter was formed. The sky, the mountains, and the fiery oceans of magma and unthinking life. They were opposing principles that made the world complete. I love it. It's great. Okay, maybe this is just ripped straight from the books. I've got no idea from the original sources. Maybe that's literally just been translated from texts that are 15, 20, 30 years old. I don't care. It's so awesome.
And it does have that. I think they've done well, actually, in capturing that feel that from role-playing games from yesteryear a bit more, with that kind of text, and
Yes.
not just Swedish, because I recognize that kind of language. It kind of reminds me of role-playing games. It reminds me a little bit of Fritz Lieber with Fafhrd and the Great Mouse. It reminds me of kind of Conan. They've done really well, and I think that maybe that comes from lessons learned with Forbidden Lands and Symbaroum, and they're kind of bringing all that together.
Yeah. And of course, the art was hugely influential in the original books. Niels Gullikson was among the original artists, and as Thomas explained, the most recent version of Drakar och, which was by Riot Minds, but is widely accepted to have very little to do with the original settings in the original game, but nonetheless was a great achievement in its own right. That original artwork was done by Johan Egerkrans for that last version, and you can see when you look at Johan's work the influences of Niels Gullikson. I've said this before, of John Bauer, and Brian Froud as well. So he's really perfect for bringing together the art focused, or the art fueled style of the feeling of the world, which is that real quirkiness that we expect from hearing about, your kind of your talking ducks, like your duck warriors and stuff like that. I mean, that's not something that you tend to get in many games. Yes, you've got it in Mutant, and of course Mutant was originally put out by the same company that put out Drakar och, so as Adventure Wheels. So there is a common theme, and it may make it feel like it's unoriginal, but it's kind of super original, really. That campaign, let's have a look. So how are we doing on it? Mirth and Mayhem Gaming, a classic fantasy RPG full of magic, mystery and adventure, designed from the ground up to facilitate fast and furious play with very little prep time, and adventures that are a breeze to run. Though a toolbox allowing you to tell fantasy stories of all kinds, Drakar och or Dragonbane is a game with room for laughs at the table and even a pinch of silliness at times, hence the mirth, whilst at the same time offering brutal challenges for the adventurers. Now, what do we mean by brutal? This is a BRP derived game. You kind of have a natural cap in your abilities and your how far you can level. And BRP games tend to be pretty deadly, and we talked about that in the interview as well. So it is perfectly possible for your character to die, for many characters to die over the course of a campaign. You just got to live with it. If you're watching live, have you backed this? Let us know. What are your thoughts on this game? Are you excited? I'm just going to pick up and have a look through the comments. Let us know down below. Reluctant Artsy says, I backed DoD/DB because of the history and the desire to see how an 80s alternative to AD&D was begun, yet knowing full well that Thomas interpreted and updated to include modern system development. Yeah, exactly. And I really like what they've done. So with BRP, it's a roll under system. They've boiled it down to a very similar mechanic that we also see in Symbaroum, although Symbaroum isn't directly influenced by BRP, as far as I know. It's kind of more influenced by DoD directly, I guess. So it's D20 roll under. You roll under your stat, which could be an ability, of which I think there's like 18 or 19 abilities, or it could be your core stats, like your physicality, effectively, or how smart you are, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Roll a 1. That's I think a dragon. That's like a critical hit. And roll a 20. That's a demon or a fail or a fumble, whatever you want to call it. What I love about this, what I love about Symbaroum, and also Demon Dog, which we'll get to later on, and something that maybe many DMs don't appreciate so much, but this game is, for the most part, although not exclusively, is quite player-facing. And I really like that. Why do I like that? Because I'm a git, and I'm quite happy when the player is responsible for their own bad roll, be it attacking or defending. Makes you feel less guilty as a GM when it goes wrong, and it gives you more leniency. It also means that you can't really fudge the dice. Yes, you can, if you really, really want to, you can fudge the hit points for something, or you can tweak the challenge rating without your player knowing. But realistically, yeah. Friend of the show, Bruce, has just said, "What is this guilt you speak of?" I know, but you're a Dungeon Crawl Classics judge, Bruce. So you just kill your players' characters. Anyway. Question, do you feel that the death saves mitigate that deadliness? I haven't read about the death saves. Martin, have you?
I saw that question and I was just having a quick look because it didn't, to be honest, it didn't stick. So you make a death roll against your constitution attribute. So after 3 successful death rolls, you recover D6 HP and you do not make another roll. After 3 failed death rolls, your player character dies. Rolling a dragon counts as 2 successful ones. Rolling a demon counts as 2 failures.
Still pretty deadly.
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar to, the dragon in the room. I don't know. There is an instant death mechanic in there, though.
Yeah.
So I think that having that in there can... I don't know. I don't... Depending on the game, depends how deadly I want the game. DCC, I'm quite happy to just die in the first room,
Yeah. As long as you've got spares, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, even if you've not got spares, it's like, oh, look, a handy prison with a prisoner, roll up a new character. It depends on the game. I think there's enough in there to give you a fighting chance. Really.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I've got a couple of other comments. Ray said, I backed it immediately. I'm extremely excited. What you all have given us here on the channel has only added that greatly. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And yeah, I say that with a kind of full heart, if you like. Venberg, good to see you. Venberg says, as a Swede, not backing this was really an option. Was not really an option. I mean, to be honest with you, as a Brit that covers a lot of Swedish games, I empathise, and I think Martin, you live in Sweden, even though you're a Brit, so we both know that you would have lost any citizenship.
Yeah, it's there when you do the citizenship application. It's like if a new version of Drakar och comes out, you have to buy it. So
I mean, basically, you it's kind of you have to stamp the back of your IKEA card, right? Just to show that you've also got Drakar och.
It's like a double-sided card. Yeah. It's just
also has all the stamps for Julmust and salt licorice,
Exactly, yeah. It's like a little booklet of like, now you're Swedish, you have to do all these things. You also have to eat rotting fish as well, It's like,
Ray also says auto hits by monsters and lower HP throughout, even long growth, are both really appealing for grit. But then good healing without superhero as much is also amazing to see. And Bruce says now on some Bilar. Weirdo. That's just...
Bilar. My wife likes Salta Bilar. Phil's gone.
I'm back. Way! I don't know what happened there. I was attempting to do something and something else happened. So, how weird. Right. So, there we go. That's what I was trying to do. Okay. I have no idea what that means. Bruce says, haven't backed this. I don't know what rubble is, but I'm sure it's important. Right. So,
a few beers in already.
Oh, that sounds great. If I did that, I'd be asleep already. What else do we have here? So, they call that playstyle Mirth and Mayhem role-playing. Yep, we know that. Quick start. Grab it. It's great. I'll show that in a little bit. And yes, obviously the text in the quick start is subject to change. The box set, there is artwork about what the box set contains. Like I said, it's a bit cheeky because that includes stuff from the stretch goals. And you can look at that either way. One is that they're incentivizing you to keep buying into the product so that you can fill that box with goodness. The other is maybe they were going to do that stuff anyway, and actually there aren't any stretch goals really because it was all baked into the product, and actually it might be unlikely that they wouldn't put all that stuff in there. I don't know. We don't really know what their business model is. We can only speculate. There are a number of abilities, and there's magic as well. And yeah, the rule set itself is a mixture of BRP, roll under, but at D20, not at D100. Plus, there's some extra elements thrown in from previous Free League games. So you do have an element of pushing. You do have willpower, which is, I believe, how you do things like magical stuff. So you want to do a magical move or a special move of some description, you have to use willpower to do it. Willpower you recover, and this reminds us of various other game systems. Willpower you recover when you rest, and you can do effectively a short rest or a stretch, and a long rest or a sleep, I want to say.
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
Shift or
shift? No. Rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I quite like the for someone who hasn't really played a lot of any BRP. To me, it really comes across as a mashup between their two other games, system-wise, Symbaroum and Forbidden Lands. It's got that roll under, but then it's also got the talents that are based around willpower. And I mean, so much so there are some similarities. If you look at the kin abilities in this for humans, halflings, elves, and wolfkin, they're all named the same as they are in Forbidden Lands.
Yeah.
So there is DNA from their other, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing. To me, that's a selling point because
what I don't know is whether they've actually pulled from two Forbidden Lands from DoD, and I think they may have done for some of those things as well. Right. Okay. So because Niels Gulliksson, who did the artwork for Drakar och, his art is used in Forbidden Lands.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's possible, and I am speculating here. We'd need someone like Joel or one of the other Swedes, maybe, who already knows this. If you are watching and you know the answer to this in the comments, please let us know. But yeah, maybe it's the case that it's kind of done a full loop, and so potentially the Wolfkin, etc., which have ended up in Forbidden Lands because the artwork has been, or Neil's artwork has been reused. Yeah. Maybe that then comes into this game, but actually comes originally from DoD, and we're kind of maybe misattributing it. I don't know. I'd love to know the answer to that. Bruce says, is there other Swedish RPGs that haven't been made into English? Yes, there are quite a few. Freya League, as I nearly said then, have a few. If you look on the Swedish version of their website, the boutique, you'll see a few of the Svavelvinter. Trying to think what else there is. There's a couple on there, I think.
Oktoberlandet as well.
Yes, that was the one I was thinking of, Oktoberlandet. And then on Helmgast's website, you've got Eon, Neotech. I really want to see Neotech in English, purely because the artwork is stunning. It's a cyberpunky type game. So yeah, there are a few, and they're probably all freaking awesome. But we're not allowed them because we're just not cool enough. Instead, we have lots of run-of-the-mill stuff.
I see quite a lot of people asking for translations of Oktoberlandet on Twitter, and because that's a collaboration between, I can't remember the name of the person that did it, but
well done. That was great.
He did the white hack.
Oh, okay.
And it was also with Yuan Nor doing the layout, and both of them respond with it just wouldn't work in English.
Yeah, there are a few things like that. So... And it's just like, well, come on, let us fail. Just give us the opportunity to fail, please. But even things like if you haven't seen it, please go check it out. God, probably a couple of years ago now, or it feels like that long at least, we played Barkhexan, which is Johan Nor and I think Pelle Nilsson as well, that are responsible for Mörk Borg. One of their first games is a short publication in Swedish, and it's The Bark Witch. It's basically kind of gothic horror. You're in the forest, and it's all going to go horribly wrong. We had great fun playing that, and Joel, our token Swedish GM, did an amazing job with that. We are getting distracted though, as we do. We've talked a little bit about the rules. The world is interesting. It's a game of fast-paced fantasy adventures. The core game presents a core mythology of the fantasy world focused on the eternal struggle between dragons and demons, the ruin of fallen kingdoms, worshipping either of these rival godlike creatures, beckon brave adventurers with the lure of hidden treasures. Rather than describing entire continents, the core game focuses on the Misty Vale, as Martin mentioned earlier on, a hidden mountain valley until recently overrun by orcs and goblins. In recent years, the orcs have retreated into the mountains, leaving the land open for explorers, settlers, and adventurers of other kin, such as humans, dwarves, elves, halflings, mallards, our favourite duck people, and wolfkin. The land lies open for adventure. So in many ways, it is quite derivative, but I don't think that's a bad thing on this occasion, especially as they are planning an open license for third-party content, which is great, because that means that people who have known this product for years, this 40-year history of DoD, will have created their own homebrews over that time, and that could be pulled in. If there are any old publications that are now kind of out of license, they can be reprinted, particularly if they are self-published, I guess. There's so much possibility here. Then we also need to remember that they are also planning to make this fully available in Foundry VTT and in Roll20. What do I mean by that? They're going to translate everything into Swedish as well as having it in English. So it's none of this thing of, oh, there's just a rule set. It's not that. From my understanding from talking to Thomas, and okay, yeah, maybe I misunderstood, is that basically all of the stuff is going to be in those platforms, which is great. It's going to be one of the first times that you get pretty much everything in both English and Swedish and a VTT from Free League, and that's so cool. As for stretch goals, they've hammered through loads. Character sheets, adventures, initiative cards, dice set. I don't really like the dice very much. They're definitely cheap and cheerful, but let's not forget that the core set of this box is only $37, 400 crowns, which is the same price almost as the retail price for any of the starter sets that you get off the shelf. Yes, okay, in retail they're actually a lot cheaper, but the reality is it's not a lot of money for a full game in a box. these days when you quite easily spend 40 quid on just a book. So love the dice? No, but they're fine. They're like a transparent or translucent. I think they're green. I think they're green because I'm slightly colorblind, but they look green to me. Yeah, lots of adventures. I'm super excited, by the way, by some of the adventure authors. So there are some really important talents that are involved in this. We've got Magnus Sirta, who did a bunch of stuff for Cult, including the Gallery of Souls that we did last Halloween. Yeah. The original version, was it the original version he did? I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. He also did the Bit of Reach for Forbidden Lands.
Nah, no one likes that stuff. Bit of Reach is amazing. Gabriel de Boer, Gunilla Jonsson, and Mikael Peterson, which for me, I mean, that's Holy Grail stuff right there as well. Roger and Dagen, Moa Frithiofsson, think about that for a second. Svante Landgraf, Johan Sjöberg. I mean, the names just keep coming. That's where we're up to now. So that's like 5-6 adventures already. More to come. The next stretch goal to unlock is the VTT stuff. Then there's I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy Matthias Lilja. He's kind of important in the hobby. He and Andreas Marklund are next up with Island of Mist, which is based on the classic Demon by Roger und Hagen, which is great. And that's something that I know that many of our patrons are really excited about. That's all the add-ons, pretty much. I skipped a couple as cards and battle maps and standees and stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of content. Then, let's see, go back to the comments. Hilden Lieki says, greetings from Finland. Great to see this game getting a new version with one of my favourite illustrators making art for it. About the project with the core set. Already love it. You didn't get the fill. You didn't get the fill level. We need to fix that. So, Martin, do you want to explain what the fill level is?
The fill level is the level at which you're the highest level at which you're allowed to back. So basically, whatever isn't the retailer level.
That's the best way to put it. And I don't know, if I just reshare my screen, we can just check out what the fill level is. So for $75, it's the boxed set, the PDS, the Game Master screen, the cloth map. And cloth maps for these games are generally amazing. You probably see over my left shoulder, and I'll make my picture bigger a little bit in a second. But that is a cloth map from the Ruins of Symbaroum campaign, and it's gorgeous. An honourable mention. I think in some cases, for some of us, it might be a dishonourable mention, but there you go. And obviously all those stretch goals, which we're probably going to put in the box anyway. So I'll just embiggen myself a little bit. That there. You can still see the creases because I didn't get around to just flattening it out and ironing it, which I will probably do at some point. But that's a cloth map of, Amber and Davokar, basically. And that's not a cloth map. I think it's go on.
Sorry. I was just going to say, to answer Retro DM Ray's question, yes, there are initiative cards. They were the third stretch goal that were unlocked. So yes, they were very early on.
Yeah, which is handy. Other pledge levels, the non-fill pledge level is just the core box set for $37, which is basically half the price. And for that, you get the box set and the PDFs and any of the stretch goals that were going to be in the box anyway. So you're basically paying extra for the cloth map, the GM screen. So if you don't need a map and you don't need the screen, and to be honest with you, I don't tend to play with the screen. So one could argue, and Bruce alluded to this, we could go the fill level and then drop it like fill. I mean, I could be tempted to drop it from the deluxe bundle, because I am running out of space for maps on the walls, but I don't see that happening. We should very quickly have a little look-see at I'm just going to have to change what I'm sharing, at the actual PDF for the Kickstart, because I think it's actually important that if you haven't seen it, that you see how awesome it really is. Let me just do that now. So there we go. For those of you who are looking, there's the cover. Those of you who are listening, don't worry, we'll read stuff out. So right at the beginning, we have this gorgeous image of this castle, basically on an outcrop of rock, and yeah, I mean, it's very, very Johanna Grantz in every way. It could be straight out of Vessen, for example, but it's not. It's in this game, and it looks great. And you can see on the opposing pages the text that I read out earlier. But as you go through, you can really see they've spent a lot of time thinking about the layout. They've applied a lot of lessons learned. It's not super dense text, and they've been very careful to make sure the contrast is there, so it's really easy to read. I think the layout is really done well. It does remind me of the layout of Forbidden Lands, actually, in terms of kind of the way that things are put together. But obviously it's a full colour book. Sadly not a hardcover, which is a shame.
I think it's Dan Elstrand that's done the layout for this.
It could well be. He's done a lot of good things. Yeah. And I do think it's a shame that they are not putting this in as a hardcover. But Thomas intimated that he expects that any add-ons, not add-ons, but future books like campaign books, etc., may well be hardcover. So it's my deepest desire that when they do that, maybe the second one or something like that, if they could make a version of the rule book that's also a hardcover that can go on the shelf next to those campaign books, I'd really appreciate that. I think it would look better, because you kind of don't want to get the rule book out of the box every time you want to read it. You kind of want it next to all the other... Well, I want it next to all the other books. There's rules about melee combat, which is pretty straightforward, and range combat, which is equally simple, and your damage and conditions, and the monsters, which are just stunning. The artwork is really fun. There's a good section about magic, and we should probably just go on. You're giggling. Let me know why.
I'm just putting my hand up and not looking because it's the adventure, and I want to play it at some point. So I'm not looking.
Oh, you haven't looked at the adventure? Okay, I haven't either. So that's fine. But let's just look at the pre-gens very quickly, because I just want to explain how cool this is. So you can play as Krisanna the Bold, who's a little halfling thief. You can play as... Hang on, I need to just go back up a bit. The Archmaster Aiden, who's a wizard elementalist, I think. Yes. Mm-hmm. Orla Moonsilver, the adult elf hunter. She's proper badass. And then you've got the two wild cards here, which I think are just stunning. Makanda of Halfbay, the Mallard Knight, and Baston Bloodjaw, the young Wolfkin warrior. What they say about Makanda is amazing. The Mallard, the duck. You are the youngest son of the Baron of Halfbay, who resides at his seat of power many days' travel to the east. Knowing that the title will pass to your older but lesser brother, you searched your soul and decided to forego your own path. You take great pride in your name and honour, and accept missions that help the weak and punish the wicked. Now you have joined a company of adventurers, drawn by rumours of treasure in the Misty Vale. And then there's this thing. Ill-tempered. You're ill-tempered. Willpower points 3. So this is one of your abilities, effectively. Mallards tend to have a choleric temper. You can activate this ability when you push a roll and choose angry as a condition. So in this game, a bit like in things like Tales from the Loop or anything like this, you can take a condition to push your roll. If you take angry as the duck, you get a boon to the reroll. Note that pushing rolls is an optional rule. If you have Makanda in the group, you should use this rule. So basically it's saying re-roll whenever you like, but you get angry in the process, which I think is amazing.
Get your Donald Duck on, don't you?
Absolutely. And then a protector, basically you step in as a bodyguard. And Wolfkin hunting instincts. As a Wolfkin, you use the ability to designate a creature in sight, creature you want to track the scent of. This reminds me very much of the Wolfkin in Forbidden Lands. I think it's great. You've come from the northern wastelands in search of work, joy, and the finer things in life. Tired of your people's tribal feuds, you dreamed of something bigger and travelled south. There you worked as a mercenary, gladiator, caravan escort, and guardsman, before banding together with a company of adventurers. You're now on your way to the Misty Vale, enticed by rumours of demons, monsters, and mighty foes. It's great. I love what they've done with this game. It's so much fun. Andy says the only good duck is crispy. Breaking the fourth wall for a second, I worked away out of the house today, and we do normally have crispy duck on a Friday, and I totally forgot to take it out of the freezer. And yeah, not a happy household today.
Oh dear.
I know. If you play as a Mallard wizard and take mental damage, can you become Daffy Duck? I see no reason why not.
Why not?
Macanda
I guess crispy duck is just what happens when you come across the dragon as well.
Absolutely. Reluctant Artsy says Macanda looks very arrogant and pissed off. Lol. I agree completely. And the map is stunning. Art just works perfectly. Love the layout as well. Easy to read. So, any final thoughts on Dragonbane, Drakar och?
Back it, you want to.
Yeah. Back it.
I mean, I've already backed, and I'm considering getting. I've backed for the English one. I'm considering getting an extra box that's a Swedish one, because when my girls saw the duck in armor, they were like, "I want to play that game." Is that one of your pretend games?
Pretend games? No, it's a real game. Damn it!
No. And I was like, "Yes," and they're like, "Can you be a duck with a sword?" And I was like, "Yes," and they're like, "I won that game." So
that feels like a win. Absolutely feels like a win. Anytime as a parent you have your kids asking to play a game with you, you got to take it, because there's a fine and kind of, from what I understand, as I don't have children, there's kind of a small window of opportunity at which point the thing that you've been trying to get your kids to join in on in terms of tabletop role playing is either is or totally isn't cool. So you have to kind of just sort of get in there at the point where they're volunteering to do it rather than you're trying to push them. So yeah. Do it. And for the rest of you, please let us know if you've backed this. Let us know what you're thinking of it. Let us know in the comments. If you're not on our Discord, then come and talk to us. And hopefully you're enjoying the show. Please hit like and subscribe and all that stuff. And Andy says, don't forget the Andy level, PDF only, because because Andy can then pretend he hasn't bought it. But actually, Andy's got a lot of books. So, to be fair, Duck's one up on D&D. Totally agree. Venberg says, is Martin getting the Yoel level then? Yeah, that's pretty much accurate. So I believe our friend Yoel is getting both languages as well. And final thoughts, when can we have it, we're asked. Soon. August 2023. Not soon enough. But I would imagine that the beta version of the PDF will be a couple of months out. It's going to be great. That is Dragonbane, Drakar och. I hope that you enjoyed our little summation of it. We went way over time, but with good reason. It's incredible. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the only thing to bear in mind is it's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's Dragons and Demons. It's a different game. It's going to have a lot more deadliness. It's going to be a completely different feeling at the table. If you've never run or played anything other than 5th edition, I think it's a great game to start off with. In Sweden, this game was originally sold in bookshops and toy shops, just plain retail in the early 80s, and every kid had a copy. And by kid, we're talking young teens and kind of at the top end of sub teams, I guess. And it was just done. Every family had a copy and everyone loved it. So that's where they're coming from. It's a labour of love from Free League. I think it's going to be great. I really do. We should jump straight from that to this other game that we've been talking about, because I, again, can't explain enough how excited I am about Demon Dog by Nightfall Games. So the question I'm going to ask you, Martin, which comes back from the question that we posed in the podcast episode, the first episode of Casting Without Wizards, is there space right now in the tabletop role-playing game hobby for another freaking Mörk Borg game?
As far as I'm concerned, there is always space.
But is it not just more of the same? That's my question. It's a loaded question. I have very strong feelings about this.
I would say that it's actually not, having read both, from what they've given so far, based on the Kickstart and based on owning Mörk Borg. I would say that there is a lot more irreverence and humor in this than there is in the standard Mörk Borg. I would say it's also just about, I would say it's a bit more British as well. It's about getting lagered up and going out and having a laugh, and sometimes that ends in violence. And it's just
Truth.
The whole thing, reading through the whole thing, just gave me, I mean, it's been nearly 10 years now that I'm living in Sweden, and I was just getting flashbacks of being out with my mates on the lash. And it really brought that back to me, and it actually made me feel a little bit homesick. Which
that's great.
Really
I believe the authors are Scottish.
Yeah.
So, and that shows, in the best of ways. The kind of synopsis at the beginning of the Kickstarter is just Nightfall Games presents Demon Dog, a punk tale of revenge and redemption. And for me, when I read the Kickstart, which is 8 pages, and get it on Drive Through RPG, they recommend that you pay £1 for it. I think that might be a bit much for 8 pages personally. But for me, I read the whole thing imagining it was a Danny Dyer. Yeah, Danny Dyer. Actually, I was thinking Guy Ritchie when I said Danny Dyer, like a Guy Ritchie film, like Lock, Stock or something like that. Because some of the things that are on there are just proper gangster. If that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, I really like it, and
it's great.
The language they use all the way through the Kickstarter page, it's all kind of in character all the way through. All the updates are like that you get. Like just the name of the Kickstart 8-page goose about a demon goose. It's just like
yeah.
The whole thing is
it's ridiculous.
I love it.
I was at lunch today in a cafe reading the 8-page Kickstart on my iPad, supping a cappuccino as you do, and I just kept laughing. And I'm pleased that everyone was doing their own thing, because someone just sitting on their own drinking a coffee and laughing is not Danny Boyle rather than Danny Dyer. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Thank you. I must have gotten some funny looks. Demon Dog is a role-playing game set in a medieval history that never was. You play dogs, revenants that were snatched from purgatory by demon barons, seeking redemption and a pint. You're not a hero now, and you weren't one before you lived. But you're possibly making things better or worse, or at least less boring. Nightfall Games brings its splatter punk style and dark humour to the fore with this ode to the OSR revival. and there's some great artwork. Basically, there's a splash. I presume it's going to be on the back page or something. And it basically says, and for those who are watching, I'll share my page. There we go. You died. You made a deal, and now you're back. Sure, you had to make a pact with the devil, or at least one of them. But it's worth it for revenge. Stick 2 fingers up to the zealots, burn their shit down, skewer the taxman, kick the guard in the bollocks.
I just love it. Just love it.
I mean, it would be better with like a Glasgow accent, to be honest with you. Spit on your grave.
I'm not going to offend people by trying to do that.
No. We need to get someone to come in to just do the voiceover for us. But the style is great. It's very much a melding of that punk style, as you can see here, and the Mörk Borg style itself. 80 pages.
I think it suits them really well because I don't have the new edition of Slay, which they also made, but I do remember vividly the original version, and the art style of what I've seen of the new version is quite similar. But I think it suits this. Like, I think you can see that DNA kind of running through this as well. Although they've gone for that kind of Mörk Borg style, they've also got their own DNA in there, and I just the whole thing is just I backed and I upped my pledge to the both of the books today because I was just like,
I'm not going to pretend that I did that, but I totally did that.
It actually made me look at Slay as well. So.
My problem, I have looked at Slay. I actually this is one of those ones that Bruce was alluding to earlier on, where I backed it quite high level, not actually at the field level. Then I got hold of the Kickstart, and it is super crunchy. And I'd love to play it, but I ain't got time to run that game. I haven't got capacity in my brain. Actually, on our Discord, not as a comment on our show, so I can't bring it up on the screen, but our friend Krista says, so the field level pledge is the highest non-retail level with a side of a ton of add-ons, or is that the Joel level? I'm confused. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'll explain this very quickly. As far as I'm concerned, if the top the top pledge level below retail has all the add-ons in, then they've got that pledge level right. A good example of this is the Old Gods of Appalachia pledge level, the kind of the top level for that. I don't think there was much. There's like 1 or 2 items which were clearly kind of afterthoughts that were going to take you way over the production kind of, or the financially viable threshold. But that pledge level basically had almost everything in it. If the top level doesn't have at least most of the add-ons in it, then they've fucked up. It's my opinion.
Does not get the Phil seal of approval.
No, it doesn't. It's my squeal of disapproval. Because ultimately, if you're a collector, and I must admit, I can't really deny that I'm a collector, because, we all know that I've only read probably about a quarter of these, maybe a bit more. But technically, I'll come back to this actually. But I think if you are wanting to get everything, then they should recognise that you're expecting to buy everything, and just make a level that just has everything and subsidizes it a little bit. Just do it. It's going to make things much easier because you then only have one SKU to deal with, you publishers. But here's my quick question, and this is way off topic. I really apologise, but let me just there. For those people who are watching, and for those who aren't, I'm pointing at the Genesis books, of which I've got 4 different versions of the core rules in different covers because I'm a freaking idiot. In order to claim
but it was going out of print, Phil.
It was going out of print, so it was definitely value for money. But my question is, do I have to read each of those books individually in order for it to class as I've read De Genesis? Do I have to read everything 4 times to justify it?
Sounds like too much hard work.
Bruce says, crunchy porridge system equals Slay. Yeah, that was my issue. Reluctant Artsy. I have Mörk Borg. Brilliant. Enjoy it. Find it hard to read. The 8-page PDF is brilliant. My old eyes are burning looking at it now. I agree with you. The beauty of Mörk Borg is that you don't really need to read any of the book, really, because unless you're doing manual character creation, almost everything you need is in those back 2 pages. I mean, there are a couple of things, rituals, however they're called in Mörk Borg, where your magical stuff kind of isn't there. You need to go digging in the book for it, but everything else you can basically do off those, the inside back cover and the inside front cover. Everything else is fluff because the game is super simple. Once you kind of get your head around that, and that everything else is just there to be an amazing, beautiful book, you can kind of disregard the persistent migraine that you will get just from thinking about the Mörk Borg book. And it's the same, I suspect, with Vast Grimm, with Death in Space, which I do have, but I haven't cracked that open yet because I've not had it very long. And it will be similar with this, although to be honest with you, I found the Kickstart much, much more legible. They haven't quite taken all the rules that Johan Nor applied of like not using the same font more than once in any given word.
One thing I would say to anybody that struggles with Mörk Borg, they released a bare bones edition. Search that on the internet, and it's just plain text.
Yeah,
you can get it all plain text,
but it's totally accessible.
If you struggle, because I don't struggle at all with Mörk Borg.
No,
I find it actually quite easy to follow, but I appreciate that some people really do. So search for the bare bones edition, and it's got everything you need.
And of course, because it's basically plain text, it's super easy to throw at something like a Kindle, which is even better. So if you're a Kindle fan rather than an iPad fan, it's one of the few role-playing game books that you can easily read on a Kindle. Going back to Demon Dog, there are a bunch of different pleasure levels. I'm not super keen on the dice that they're including. There's just cheap as chips dice. I know that's what they're going for because it's punk in it, so they're being no nonsense about it. But I kind of wish that they were doing something fancy.
I like the D3.
Yeah, I still prefer the impact dice D3 that you get for
DCC,
and their D4. The DCC D4 is my favourite D4.
It's
just nice. It's like a pyramid. It's great. But yeah, I had originally backed at the standard £26 level, which just gets you the standard cover, on the justification that I failed to get Mörk Borg at the super cool limited edition level. I'd backed it. I pulled it because I was, I think, between jobs at the time, and I just had to be sensible. And I've regretted that forevermore. And let's face it, the Demon Dog Standard Edition will look better than the Special Edition next to a standard version of Mörk Borg. But like you, I was looking at it today when I finally read that 8-page PDF, and I was like, okay, let's just have another look, because I've just spent the last 20 minutes laughing at myself. I mean, laughing at a book by myself in a crowded place. Laughing at myself is something I do for way longer than 20 minutes every day, everyone. And I'm just like, okay. So I actually do quite like the special edition cover. I think it's very cool. And then you realise that it's basically 20 quid more to get the standard edition. And I think it's going to be one where you leave the special edition on the shelf because it's gorgeous and you just use the standard edition on the table. Or as a GM, you use the limited edition, and then you let your COVID-laden friends more and pour at the standard edition, knowing full well that they're all demon dogs themselves. It's great. So in terms of stretch goals, where are we at? So we've got this is really hard to follow. They're going to deliver the book because it's funded. Not quite sure what Big Nigel Dragon is.
I think it's a monster that's going to come in and mess you up.
Big Nigel, the sodding great dragon flapping into the RPG. I think you're right. More murder weapons, Pig Marsh, so it's obviously a location. And then we've got the goose and Serenox, the hell goose, the greatest evil of all time shall waddle the lands.
Honk.
And then there's honk, yeah, exactly. And then you've got extra die, new map art, new art. I mean, that will all happen if they get there. And I really hope that they get some more backers. It's doing okay, $11,791, or just over 10 grand in British money. 300 backers. Hopefully that'll go up. It deserves to, in my opinion. Why do I think that? Well, let's have a little look for those of you who are kind enough to join us live on the stream, or who are watching. But we'll do our best to describe for those who are not. If I just stop that and share over to the PDF. Let's have a little look. See, I'm going to try and go very quickly past any scenario content, because there is a little scenario at the back. I'd love to run that for some of us on the channel. I think it's just great.
Yeah.
You died. It was sad. Get over it. No one else cared. You don't remember much of your life in this world, but you know you're angry about it. You start your new life with two things. You have a goal, some unfinished business in the real world, and you have a task, the Baron's bidding, a debt to pay for your return. If you can achieve both these goals, you're free of all of your binds. You can leave this world or return to it clean. You used to be human, but there's not as much of that left as you'd like. You look mostly human, but it's obvious you're one of the dogs, a revenant on a demon's mission. Your silver spends just as well in the tavern, even if nobody joins you at your table. You can die like anyone. You need to eat, drink, and sleep. But you're not just anyone. Trouble follows you, and when it doesn't, you might start it. Your money might be welcome in these trying times, but you're not really. So drink up, be on your way. We know what your kind are like. And then we've got make a dog. How you lived, how you died. You roll a sin. I'm going to read at least one of these sins out because they're awesome. Dog is born. And there's a load of tables that you would have if this was the full version, but this is an 8-page quick start, so they tell you to go to hell. Dog is marked. It's your Baron's mark. What you've got, your equipment, your abilities, how you die, etc. So, Martin, do you happen to have an imaginary die to hand? Can you roll me an imaginary d6? Just pick a number, any number.
Oh, 4.
All right. Graveyard scum. Look, the bastard's dead. Nobody had to know. I needed that pewter ring way more than him. Plus, I put another bloke in there just to keep him company. What's the fucking problem? Turns out I whistled while I worked and the constabulary heard me. Looks like I'm heading back to the graveyard on a permanent basis. So basically, my understanding is that's how you died, or what caused you to be killed. There's another one. There we go. Let's go for the impulsive turncoat. Got sick of marching across rain-sodden fields to fight some bastard I don't know. Getting bossed around by that poncy git on his horse. Got bad drunk that one night in Myreton. Put a broken ale bottle through his fucking eye. I fled for 8 days before they finally pulled me down. Bastards. Oh, by the way, content warning. We're probably going to swear.
I think those usually come first, but
yeah, I know, but we've never said this is for children, so
I just really like it,
and it's great. It's very fun.
I actually really like as well that bit where it says the Demon Barons. There is actually, if you want to get into the bones of it, there is like this backstory of this kind of internecine war that's going on between the barons, and you're their representatives. Yes. And it's like there is something there. It's not just an excuse to get leathered and hurt people.
Yeah, you can totally make it like a proper story out of it, like you can with Mörk Borg, to be honest with you. Although I have found that relatively incomprehensible. Just I couldn't quite wrap my head around all that the story with the basilisk, etc. But I think this is, for me, as someone who grew up in the UK especially, I find this really accessible. Mm-hmm. Andy says, I thought a demon dog was a type of spicy hot dog. Could be.
Maybe that's one of the backgrounds in the full book, spicy hot dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
In terms of the system, it's basically Mörk Borg or Mörk Borg. So you roll 3d6 for your stats. There are 4 core stats. 2 of them you're a bit better at, so you get to roll 4d6 and discard the lowest values. And they're going to represent your agility, your presence, your strength, and your toughness. And it's player facing, I believe, as well. So basically, if it's taking the Mörk Borg rules, you basically roll to attack and roll to defend.
Yeah, it's just the standard rules. They've just taken that, as far as I can see.
Which I really like. I really like player facing, as I said before. I think it's a lot of fun, and that's kind of all you need to know for the most part. The setting, as we've discussed, is superb, and in terms of the pledge levels, it's relatively inexpensive, really. £12 for the PDF, £26 for the standard core book, and a 20% discount for Mörk Borg Products Free League website, which is kind of handy if for some reason you don't already have everything that they've got. I mean, I think most of us have got everything that they sell for Mörk Borg, because there's not a lot on there. But you've got things like Heretic and stuff as well, so the kind of the expansion add-ons. £38 gets you the Punk edition, that really cool special edition version with the Punk on the front, oddly enough. In fact, I'll just reshare to discuss that one. Share screen. There we go. So for those of you looking, the Punk cover is really nice, but you also get the dice set at that Punk level as well, which I don't think you get at the standard level. So an extra £12 gets you that special edition cover and some dice. Definitely not, £12 worth of dice, but that's not the point. And then £58 gets you both editions. So one for you and one for the table, and the book, and the dice, and the 20% discount code. I think it's really cool. I really like it a lot. And if you are also inclined, you should check it out. There's not long left. I think just over a week. 12 days to go. 12 days.
Yeah. Well worth a back.
Time of recording. We made it. What a bit of a whirlwind. What do you all think? What have you backed? I did see, in fact, and I'm very, very sorry. I'm not sorry at all. The Venberg said, "Crap, you made me back Demon Dog." Even
Welcome
worse
to the
for
club.
you. Yeah, even worse for you folks in Sweden, because I guess they haven't quite worked out what they're doing with shipping. But I guess Free League have probably got it better than most, and they'll use Free League for distro on this, I think, judging by the fact that we've got a discount against the Free League boutique. So hopefully by now they've got things like shipping and taxes, etc., sorted out for continental Europe. Is the best way to put it. I know they ship out of like Germany and stuff as well now, so maybe it's a little bit better.
I think they might actually be using someone else for their shipping. GMS Hobby Games Logistics in the UK.
Oh, okay.
And last mile logistics. I don't think, even though they're getting that 20% discount, I don't think they've gone for the Free League workshop. I don't think they're being published by them.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting decision to make. I had presumed that they were doing that, but yeah, if they're not using Free League for the logistics, they probably aren't using them for anything else either in terms of production, etc.
I don't know if Free League offer that to non-Swedish producers. The Free League workshop. I think it might be a Sweden thing.
It's easy to do it that way.
But like Venberg says, shipping is free for UK and US.
Yeah. I mean, we need some concessions for leaving the sensible, European Union. On that bombshell, we should probably wrap up.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please let us know in the comments if you've backed it, what your thoughts are. Join us on the Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, then the link is down below. If you enjoyed the show, please hit like, please subscribe, all that other stuff. Hopefully we'll be back next week. I've got no idea what we're going to talk about next week. We'll sort something out. We'll we'll see you. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you, Martin. It's been a long time, and I'm really pleased to have you back on the show.
It's been fun. Thank you very much.
We'll come and talk to us on Discord. We'll hang out, and until that time, I hope that your dice rolls are way, way better than mine. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye.